A margarine stick is mostly water, and they've
Wow.
learned how to structure it and keep it stable. So I said, I wonder if there's something there in a lipstick. Believe it or not, this was a long time ago. That lipstick made $40 million. And that
Wow.
was wow.
Back then. Yeah, back then.
Oh
that was,
man,
yeah.
wow.
Even
you
now,
know,
it's
and
pretty amazing.
so I went back out again, and we had the idea of then developing a machine that would match your skin color exactly, and right in front of the consumer, download her foundation color. And we made it happen. I would say a great technical success, but it wasn't such a great marketing success. We ignored the fact that marketing wasn't exactly committed to it or excited about it. R&D cannot run ahead of the business. People do what they're rewarded for, unless they're insane. You know? So it's really important as a manager to make sure people have your goals that are aligned with you, which are aligned with the company. Listen, if you want to be a frontiersman, you're going to take a few arrows. That's the way it is. If you're not prepared to do that, don't do anything new.
Hello and welcome to Keep Shining with Stuart MacMillan. My guest today is Alan J. Meyers. Now, Alan is a good friend and colleague. We had the opportunity to work together for a number of years. He is a veteran beauty R&D leader, and he is the former chief science officer at Revlon and numerous other beauty brands. He has led innovation at L'Oreal USA, Elizabeth Arden, and Revlon. He earned the HBA Lifetime Achievement Award and holds more than 20 patents in cosmetics and skin science. Today, he advises the Lonvi Group and its biotech hub Dermagen on next-gen actives and clean science. Please help me welcome my buddy, Alan Meyers.
Keep shining, be a light. You were made to be a lighthouse, shine bright. Keep shining, be a light.
Okay, as I mentioned, our guest today is Alan Meyers, and as I said, Alan is a veteran of the R&D space in beauty, and almost more importantly to me, become a good friend and colleague. We worked together very closely at our last company and became mutual admirers. And I think, Alan, after leaving, partnered up with Lonvi and is doing some amazing things there. So, Alan, thank you for joining me today, and thanks for having a conversation. We get to talk regularly, but not sort of official like this. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, no, it's thank you for asking me, first of all. I'm really looking forward to it.
All right. So, what you were a scientist. Well, you're still a scientist, but you were a bench scientist.
That's right.
And what led you past from the bench to being, probably recognized as one of the leading R&D scientists in the beauty sector today?
Well, I think it really was from the very beginning. I always wanted to steer my own ship.
Mhm.
And I always had a goal of what I wanted to get to and where I wanted to be. And so I followed that. I when I started on the bench, I moved around a bit to different companies to really understand the different dynamics, how management works, but most importantly, learn my craft as a chemist in developing cosmetics, whether it was color cosmetics was the first area that I really sank my teeth into. And it wasn't long before, as a young man, I started to rise in the ranks. And I think it was because I kept to a few principles.
Hmm.
And the first principle is you really got to know what you're doing, right? So put that aside. Okay.
Yeah, competence is important. That's true.
Confidence is very important. But there's a tremendous amount of competent people who, for whatever reason, get stalled in their where they are, even though they may wish. Not everybody wants to, but some may wish to go through the tiers of management. But some get stalled, and there are some reasons why. I think, people need to realize, even at a very young stage in your career, you may not have anyone working for you, but that doesn't mean you don't have a sphere of influence.
That's right.
you have to develop that sphere of influence. And you do that by, one, having people trust you. You never take joy in somebody else's issues or problems within the corporation. And always be generous in spreading the credit. If you're working on a project and they say, oh, great job in developing that lipstick. Well, it wasn't just you. And you make sure people understand who else worked with you on that. And you give them credit. Even sometimes give them a bit more credit than they perhaps deserve. But guess what they're going to do? They're going to trust you. And every time you come to them for either help or guidance, guess what they're going to do? They're going to drop what they're doing and they're going to help you. And it's going to help your growth. It's going to help their growth too, by the way. And so, and the other point here as a young man, you have to remember, it's not a zero-sum game. Just because somebody else got promoted or got into the group you wanted, it doesn't mean you're not going to.
Right.
In companies, there's lots of opportunity. And so don't say, oh, I really wish I got that promotion. I really wish they transferred me there. You know what? Keep doing what you're doing and it will happen. And if it doesn't happen there, well, then look to the outside at some point. It'll happen that way. But always remember that there's more opportunity than you think there is. And so many people, I've seen so many people actually try to covet everything for themselves. Be generous. Don't covet. Remember, there's opportunities for you, whether it's in that company, keep learning and growing, or in another company.
That's great advice. And it's interesting. I watched you as a leader over the years and that we worked together, and you absolutely embodied that first of all, criticize in private, praise in public. I saw that in you. And good leaders like you were or are take responsibility for the mistakes and they spread out the successes, right?
Yeah, so, exactly.
And that's what good leadership is about. It's funny. I was reading something the other day where they said a good leader, a bad leader starts to blame when things start falling apart. They start blaming people. And a good leader pulls the people that work for them together and tries to figure out a solution. Right. And so I saw that in you all the time.
No,
so you were at L'Oreal, Elizabeth Arden, Revlon. Yeah. Could you just give me, I know you had a ton of wins over your career. Can you give me kind of a cool product story from each of those?
I guess the early time in my career, getting into management, was working for Unilever, who had purchased Elizabeth Arden, and I was a gift with that purchase. And I had
a gift with purchase. That's pretty funny.
So I was running the color cosmetic laboratory at that point, and we knew that Unilever had such vast resources, and so I was able to convince them to send me to Europe. And I worked first with the fellas that developed margarine. Remember, Unilever is one of the largest producers of food in the world.
Right,
and so I said, I really want to learn about margarine. And the people there were wonderful and giving. I mean, these scientists, these were true scientists. Some of them with more than a PhD. There was physicists. And I'm speaking to one guy, I still remember his name. His name was Patrick Dunphy, who's a wonderful guy. And he was talking to me about margarine. And I didn't realize that margarine is probably nothing much more than structured water.
Really?
A margarine stick is mostly water. And they've learned how to structure it and keep it stable. So I said, I wonder if there's something there in a lipstick. And he came to the United States with me, and we put the team together, and we developed something called Lip Spa, which was the first emulsion lipstick. It was a lipstick that had a water phase, and we could put active materials in there. And believe it or not, this was a long time ago. I would say probably 91 or 92. That lipstick made $40 million.
Wow.
That was wow.
Back then. Yeah, back then.
Oh
that was,
man,
yeah.
wow.
Well, even now, it's pretty amazing. But,
yeah, it was. And we had a wonderful marketing team. They called it Lip Spa. This really nice people that we worked on it, and we really had something. And I loved it. I just loved doing it. I loved working with the guys in research, and so I went back out again. And we said, I had a fellow that worked for me. His name is Richard Rigg. He's a great scientist, has his own business now. And we had the idea of then developing a machine that would match your skin color exactly, and right in front of the consumer, download her foundation color. And remember, this is the early 90s.
Yeah, wow.
So we were able to pull together all of these great groups. We had a physicist that worked on how much the bottle should shake to get the pigments to get in. And we had fellas that were in electrical engineering that helped with the programming. We brought a programmer in from the outside, and we made it happen. And I remember it launching. And one of the keys at that time, Elizabeth Arden was sold only in department stores. And one of the keys in department stores is get the person in the chair, because that's when you're able to cross-sell everything. Well, this automatically gets the person in the chair. And then we're able to improve the cross-sell opportunities by having the computer suggest other cosmetics, etc., and skincare. And so it was, I would say, a great technical success, but it wasn't such a great marketing success.
Okay.
and I'll tell you why. It was a lesson that I learned in it. I learned it the hard way, myself and my boss. We got it into about 75 doors. It's not a lot compared to the number of stores that we could have gotten it into. And why? We ignored the fact that marketing wasn't exactly committed to it or excited about it.
Interesting.
R&D cannot run ahead of the business. And from there, it was always a major takeaway from me that you're not on an island. We did this wonderful work. We were so excited. We were congratulating each other, and it didn't do what we wanted it to do, because we didn't have the team. The team wasn't a part of it. We didn't take the marketing team along with us. They didn't like the idea. We didn't try to. I tried to convince them, but I wasn't convincing enough. And I should have realized, right there, I was a young man. And so I've taken that lesson along with me. You don't always have all the answers. You might have something technically incredible, like Lip Spa was, and they came along with us. But you're not an island. Make sure you have the team with you. And if you don't, backtrack, either get them with you or move on to the next.
That's a great lesson, and it transcends just R&D. I think in any environment, collaboration is so important, right? And we've got to have the various teams working together. It's got to make marketing sense. It's got to make financial sense. You've got to have the technology. I mean, to back you up. And I used to say a lot. A half an idea is usually twice as bad, not half as good. Right?
That's right.
If you swim halfway across Lake Ontario, you're dead. So halfway there isn't good. So that was one difficult time in your career that you got a lesson. Any other difficult times in your career where you went, I got a lesson, at the worst case, I got a lesson from this?
Actually, it was a success.
Okay.
And I learned a lot from it. At that time, I had left Unilever. I was a senior vice president. I went on to run the L'Oreal laboratories. When the head of the lab retired and I took his position in the United States, we had all the U.S. brands, etc. And he had taken on the responsibility of bringing a new sunscreen into the United States called Mexerol, was developed by the L'Oreal lab. L'Oreal has tremendous abilities, but they were having a real problem getting it. It was like a new drug. You had to go through the same drug approval process with the Food and Drug Administration.
Mm-hmm.
And my boss at the time in Paris said, Alan, you're gonna take that over, and you're gonna make this happen. And you know what? They had spent at that time a lot of money, a lot of years, and we made it happen in just a few years for not that much money.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very simple. I remember getting the phone call, congratulations. I remember saying to my friends, it wasn't really that big of a deal. All I did was hire the right people.
Well, that's great.
You know, I hired a woman who understood how to go and work with the Food and Drug Administration on new drug development. That was the key. And after that, she brought in some people. And one thing as a manager you must do, and that is measure. So I brought in the right people, but then you have to have the right process. As a manager, you put it on a board. Where are we? It's not to micromanage, but it's to set the goalposts and understand whether it's a weekly basis or a bi-weekly basis where the team is going. So truthfully, I couldn't do it myself. If someone asked me to do it myself right now, I say, okay, let me hire the right people.
Right.
And get them the right support.
The right support, remove hurdles, remove challenges, and give them breathing space to be the best versions of themselves. It's interesting. I mean, I would say in my career that building teams was probably led to any success that I did have. I'm not particularly bright, but I actually understand. But I understand the value of surrounding yourself with great people. And putting the right person in the right role so that you've got, I have accumulated a group of people over the years, but I sometimes have opportunities and someone will go, that person's really good, but I'll go, yeah, but they're not the right fit, either culturally or the elements of the role that I know maybe don't meet their weaknesses as opposed to their strengths. And so really just finding the right people. And it's interesting to hear you say that because, your when we worked together, your team was a highly functioning team. And I guess that has a lot to do with why. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So one of the things I love is that we've continued to talk over the last couple of years, and you have stayed deep into the science. As a matter of fact, aligned yourself with an old buddy of yours at L'Envie, and so I kind of wanted to talk about where the beauty industry is going and what kinds of things you're seeing. It's just so fun for me that you are continuing to be innovative and creative and search out new things. It's amazing to me, candidly, that beauty's been around for so long and yet we still keep finding out new things. So what new either delivery mechanisms, approaches, materials are you finding at L'Envie that excite you the most right now? And what problems do they solve?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I like to couple it with Dermagen. Dermagen is the company that we have that develops ingredients through a very clean process of biosynthesis.
Okay.
And there's tremendous biology and technology there. But if you said to me, what's the difference now, Alan, with the industry? What do you see over the next, let's say, few years? We're going to go from thinking about anti-aging to thinking about longevity. I bet you that you're going to see products out there such as pro-longevity serums. And why?
Wow.
The technology has come so far in which now you can take an active material and see how it works with the different markers in your genes. And so every cell is programmed to die at a given point. It's necessary. You don't want DNA damage, right?
Okay.
But what if you can keep that cell not so much from dying, but healthier all the way across? I mean, it's like me. I'm 67 years old. I'm not going to run a marathon tomorrow, and I'm not lifting weights, but I try to keep healthy, right? I want to,
right.
It's not as long as I live, it's how healthy I live. And the same thing I think with skincare. So I think skincare which will be led by the big guys and great science in the future on trying to slow that process. There are basics. Use your sunscreen, moisturize your skin. But beyond that, what can we do new, different, and unique that's really going to help people? Right now, it's been in a stall. You have the same active materials, whether it's retinol, whether it's niacinamide, whether it's a whole host of those. I think we're going to see a big change. And I do think Dermagen is going to be a part of that change.
That's awesome. It's interesting what you said in a bit of a recap is that up until now, the beauty industry is focused on making you look like you're not aging. What you're saying is we're gonna move past not looking like you're aging to not actually aging.
That's
right?
the goal, right?
Chronologically, right?
Yes, that's the goal. Looking better
because I
than
know
the
even
age.
on my Oura, my Oura ring, it tells me what my age is in actual years, and then what my age is from a health perspective. And it sounds like what you're working on is it's not just aesthetics anymore. It's not looking younger. It's actually being younger, like keeping the cells longer and all that kind of thing. That's fascinating, actually.
Yeah. So I think I think through Dermagen, and then we have our company Long V that is a turnkey manufacturer of skincare. We'll develop it. We'll use Dermagen materials, and we'll do the packaging, everything out the door. But our focus really is how to differentiate us from other companies, and that's what we're going to do. We're investing in a lot of basic science, but it's really kind of fun because we're surrounded by really smart people, and we're going down this path. And Stuart, you and I have discussed. We had done a number of edible products along the way, right? That still today, there's that missing link of
interesting
of having your gummy with everything in there tested, and then testing a skincare product, and then testing it together and showing, and really showing how that is going to enhance your product. And I think I want to be a part of that at one point. I think
how it works, how it actually works, how they collaborate, how they actually work together.
Yes, exactly.
Wow.
Right now we know which supplements, what are good for you, and people are taking them, and we know skincare, what's good for you and where that's going. But I do think if the right hand and the left hand work together on this and test it together, we're going to learn a heck of a lot more.
That's super exciting. Yeah, the other thing that I recall from our time together was well, first of all, your integrity as a person, but your integrity in terms of the work was something that I counted on,
Right.
And so when you created a new technology, I know that you're not going to put something out there that is either not efficacious, that's fairy dust. We call it fairy dust in the beauty industry and the nutritional industry. What are your non-negotiables for efficacy and safety before you'll move forward? Because I know they're super important to you, and it's important that people hear about them.
So I think the first thing is safety, right?
Okay.
Ford used to say safety is job one.
Right.
I'm aging myself. It is job one. God forbid you put out a product that injures someone. I don't know how you're going to sleep at night. It's just an awful situation for your company. You can destroy your brand. So that's number one. And you got to get people smarter than yourself, and you can't skip any steps with regard to understanding the molecules that you're doing and their safety impact. That's job one. Job two is don't make up claims. Really substantiate.
Right.
And that means you spend the money. It's honestly, folks, it's not as much money as you think to run your studies. And if you're going to do a study that takes 3 months to show something happen, run it for 3 months. And if it fails, sulk for a day, go on to the next and try again. And so at the end of the day, you have to think of yourself as your own company, as your own integrity. Don't put out a product unless you're really proud of it. Don't put
Right.
out a product that you have some kind of emotional nervousness about it. That's telling you something. That's telling you don't launch it. One of the most important things I think, especially it's in everywhere, no, not just technical, is as a senior manager, when people come to you and say, I got a problem with this product we're developing, you don't beat them up. Because if you beat them up, guess what happens? Secrecy.
They're not going to tell you next time.
They're not going to tell you.
That's
You
right.
want them to tell you. You celebrate it, and so that's like for me, that openness, having people be able to tell me, look at the stability, we have a problem. I remember years ago, I had a senior manager come to me. I wanted to see the stability of his product, and I looked out the window and I saw him shaking it before he came in my office.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
Well, he didn't last much longer, but
Yeah.
that is the the bedrock of what we do. And so be true to yourself. Don't beat anybody up, and don't launch something unless you feel that it's going to improve your company, make your brand stronger.
Well, it's interesting because one of the things you've said, and I was thinking as you were speaking, it's not technology and R&D in this space are not for the faint of heart, and they're not for the faint of wallet. So if you don't have and I'm throwing this out to anybody who's watching this, if you don't have the funds to withstand having to ditch a product at the last minute that you've invested in because it either isn't safe or doesn't work, if you don't have the funds, and we're going to touch on this a little bit, to make sure that the ingredients that you're putting into the product are actually at a level that's efficacious, if you don't have the funds for continued clinical trials to make sure, then you shouldn't be in the R&D business. And that's not to say you shouldn't be a beauty company. What it says is then you should probably outsource that part to companies like Dermagen and Lanvie, because it is not easy. Now, I mentioned fairy dusting. I know what it is, and I would love, from a scientific standpoint, for you to talk about if you've seen that before and how does it harm things.
Of course. I mean, we've seen that. You and I do it forever, right? You put in a small amount of fairy dust, and you say, we have fairy dust in here that's going to solve your problem of wrinkles and expression lines, and it's in there at 0.0001, and it doesn't do a bloody thing. And guess what happens? The consumer's not stupid. He's going to buy. Selling is easy, right? It's the repeat purchase.
Right.
You're not fooling anybody.
Right.
You're fooling yourself.
It's sad, actually, in a way, but yeah. Where do you see the biggest gap between where the market is currently and what actually works? So I'm leading you from fairy dust into this. Where's the market? What actually works on skin and hair, and what things are you seeing without naming companies? Or that's not what I'm here to do. But what things are out there that you go, that's not real? And where what actually is working on skin and hair these days?
So I would say that I don't want not going down the road of saying what people are using that doesn't work. Let's talk about what works, like you said, Stuart.
Yeah.
And so for skincare, using a retinoid, it really works. Make sure you use sunscreen with it. Things like hyaluronic acid, things like niacinamide, things like even old-fashioned glycerin. Look for it on your labels. Those are the bedrocks of skincare. And now we've moved a bit, things have got a little stagnated. Retinol, which is the aldehyde, or it's a sister of retinol. And people are going to move to this. Why? Retinol is a 3-stage process to convert to retinoic acid in your skin, the molecule that works. Retinol is only 2-stage. It's not that it's quicker, it's much less irritating. And you're going to see people going into this realm. So you'll be able to get really nice efficacy on your skin. And peptides is a whole new world. My close friend Tian, who started the business, is an expert in protein chemistry. And we've developed a number of them because they really do send messages to create collagen, to create elastin, to prevent some other things from happening. So I think that science is really moving forward, and is another big reason for it. 40 years ago, we didn't have the instrumentation to even know how things are working.
Interesting.
Now, instrumentation has, along with, you watch your crime shows, DNA, that's all great chemistry, right? So can you imagine how everything has evolved so you could really understand what's happening to your cells and to your skin? And so people have staked a lot of time in their careers on developing different ways of testing products and ingredients to see really what they do, and then to make changes in those molecules to make them work better.
Do you think some of that, this is a sort of a technology or beauty companies, R&D companies beware? Do you think the ability to test has gotten into the hands of lay people? So companies like ours have to be more diligent about what they're putting out there because people are going to find out sooner. Is that the truth?
Yeah, exactly. I think you have, listen, brand loyalty in the skincare world is very, very difficult, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you could list all the companies that fell by the wayside, all those products over the years. And I'm a true believer that in order to stay relevant, one, you do have to keep changing a bit because you're learning and you're growing and technology is changing. So you want to keep giving your consumer the best. The second thing is really test it. And because if someone's going to spend whatever, $10 is a lot to some people, right? It's a lot of money, $20 or $30. Please give them what you say you're giving them.
Right.
Otherwise, for me, it's really not nice.
And I would say to consumers, do your research, right?
Exactly.
Do your research. There's so much information available, and test products. Can
I give the consumers a little bit of a tip?
Yes, please.
The ingredient listing was put in place by the Food and Drug Administration some years ago so people could understand what's in those products. But it was really at that time to make sure they didn't see anything in there that can cause some kind of allergy. Look at it this way. Everything is listed on the ingredient listing in order of amount. So water will be number one in a skincare product. It's,
and
60% water. And shampoos. It doesn't matter. When you're looking at your active materials, all the way down the list, right? Some of them are in there very low levels. However, if you're seeing them below the preservatives that are in the product, there's a little signal there. There's not much in that product.
Fairy dust. Did we say that?
Fairy dust. Maybe with the exception sometimes of retinol, because you got to use a very small amount.
Yeah, you don't need a ton.
You don't need that much. But for the others, look at where they are on it. If they say it's in there,
but it's below. That's a great thing. But it's below the preservatives. If it's below the preservatives, you might want to question it, right?
Exactly. I'll move on to the next.
Here's a question for you. You mentioned peptides, and just reading up, there are a lot of companies lately coming out with peptides and talking about peptides. Is there any buyer beware you have for them? Because it just seems like there's just so many of them, and then I hear, well, they have it, they don't have it, they have it in small quantities.
Yeah. Well, peptides are another type of material that you only need low levels of. Because they're active materials, very active materials. And I think that as long as those companies are purchasing their peptides from people that know what they're doing and the proper safety was done on them, that's not going to be a big issue. And and for instance, and Dermagen, for instance, we develop peptides through biosynthesis, fermentation. We take natural ingredients, whether it's a a mushroom, whether it's a flower, a rose petal, and we'll put it through biosynthesis. We'll make a ferment, and then we'll try to identify everything in that ferment. And it usually comes with a number of peptides. And then we see, what do those peptides do? If you take rose water has been used for 40 years, doesn't do a thing. It really doesn't. The water that's in the rose water does more. But if you take a rose petal and you ferment it, all of a sudden it's full of these peptides that the plant has hidden in there. And what happens when you apply it? Now we make this ferment, age spots are diminishing. I mean, really diminishing, evenness of skin tone improving. So there's so much more to learn, right? And you gotta just keep at it that way. Peptides opens up a whole new world to everyone. You just have to make sure it's the right supplier.
That's great. I'm going to jump from science into leadership because, as I said, I've said a few times in the last half hour, you led a very highly functioning team when we worked together, and and you've done that for many, many years. So you sort of touched on it at the beginning, but what would you say is your core leadership philosophy after years of leading high performance teams and innovation teams? Because there's something different. Like, for example, leading a creative team requires different tools than a sales team. Require. So you lead high performance innovation teams. So talk to me a little bit about what your philosophy has been and how you've gotten the most out of them.
So I guess I always revert back to me, the greatest management principle management principle number one: people do what they're rewarded for, unless they're insane. So it's really important as a manager to make sure people have your goals that are aligned with you, which are aligned with the company. Okay. There's no point in having goals if the company doesn't care about what you do. Everyone is aligned that way. And the second thing is something we already alluded to, and that is celebrate both success and failure, because that's how they're going to learn, and that's how the next big thing is going to happen. You can't beat them up. Listen, if you want to be a frontiersman, you're going to take a few arrows. That's the way it is. If you're not prepared to do that, don't do anything new. Use your fairy dust. But if you really want to develop something, celebrate it both. If I can, there was a man, I made a presentation. I was a young manager. And there was a man who ran Unilever North America, really big job. And his name was Bob Phillips. I still communicate with him every now and then. He was a great person. I developed with the team a new type of self-tanner that would make sure you would never get that orangey glow. And it was way out there. And guess what? We had a problem with the package, and the package was falling apart. And there I am. I got to present this issue to Bob. And my boss at the time, who was really smart, he goes, "Alan, when you present with the same enthusiasm, bad news, as you do good news." So I gave him a very enthusiastic presentation of a disaster. And
that's great.
And he looked at me, and there wasn't a crossword. There wasn't anything that came from him. He said, "Alan, I really appreciate you and the guys, the ladies, developing this product." Maybe not in those words. It's been a long time. But I walked out of there feeling, what a guy, what a person, what a manager. It makes me want to do more. He didn't beat me up, so I'm not afraid to do something new next time.
Right. That's you used a great word just then, fear. And one of the things, even over the course of my career, is making sure that I don't thwart people's creativity or their enthusiasm to try. And there are a number of ways as leaders we can do that. One is what you're talking about. We can get mad at them when they fail. If you get mad at them when they fail, they're not going to try. They're not going to present ideas because they don't want you to get mad at them. The second one is to say no a lot. And my philosophy is, if it doesn't really matter, don't say no. Do you know what I mean? Because if you just keep saying no, then they're gonna quit delivering ideas, right? If you keep giving them reasons why that won't work, or we don't do that here, or that's not how we do things. Or if you keep doing that, then they're just going to give up, right? I think, that's super important. And then the last one is correcting them. So, I'm not scientific, but I have a certain skill set in writing and speaking. And there has been many times in my career where a written document has come across my desk, and I say to myself, I could probably write this better, right?
Yeah,
But then
sure.
I have to weigh, is my writing this a little bit better going to be significantly change the project? Is it going to be significantly better? And if I weigh that against the damage I'm going to do to this person, who every time they bring me something, I feel the need to correct it. To me, it's insecure leaders that want to correct things all the time. They want to prove that they know something. They want to prove that they're the boss or whatever. And so that's great. That's great leadership advice, I think.
Yeah.
So got to make sure that innovative, creative, all people are not afraid to fail, right?
Exactly. And what you just said is so true, Stuart. I don't know how many times, when you're doing something for so many years, a young person comes to you and says, I'm going to do this and this is how I'm going to do it. And you say to yourself, this is how you're going to, oh, God, don't do it that way. Do it this way. But I've learned to bite my tongue, because sometimes they're smarter than you are. And they may find that route getting to Z a lot quicker than you did. So,
exactly.
So be open to that. There's smarter people than what's sitting,
that's
in your
right.
body. Yes.
So, Alan, could you nail down one habit that most improved your leadership, and how would others grab that habit? How would they build on it?
Be generous.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's
be
good.
generous, be generous and keep giving people opportunity. Be generous in spreading the credit. Be generous in making sure no one gets beat up for anything that happens there, and be generous with your time with them as well.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Yeah. Be present. Be generous.
Yeah. There's an old thing. You and I know this old thing about management by walking around.
Mm-hmm.
It's as relevant today as it was forever.
Absolutely.
Take the pulse of your people. You could tell walking into a lab or an office if something is amiss, and talk to your people. Let them know who you are. And I think it's a little bit more difficult now, isn't it, Stuart, with so many people working remotely?
Yep.
How do you take, that's a whole nother skill set that I don't have. How do you take their temperature in a way of how they feel, what they're doing? How can you motivate them more if you're not with them?
Yeah, I think it is challenging, and I would say the investment of bringing folks together on a regular basis is more than pays for itself.
Absolutely.
And so, I've always believed, and you remember when we worked together, I would pull people from around the world together at least a number of times a year, because it's in that room that you get to look in their eyes. Well, you can look in their eyes in a Zoom, but it's different. And you get to feel how are they feeling, because they can say a lot in the 40-minute time slot you have with them on a screen, but when you hang out with people, you get to see how they're actually doing. So I always say invest the time in bringing your people together, even if they're remote. So
you're 100% right. Yeah.
So you've had a bunch of solid teams over the years.
I have.
What would you, and you're a very humble man, but what would you want them to say about you when they're telling stories about you years from now?
That's a very hard question. I think that I think that I would like them to say that I was fair, and they grew, and they enjoyed their time with me as their senior manager.
Mm-hmm. They had a good time. I like that one too. Yeah. Did we have fun? Did we have fun?
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, oh my God, life goes so fast.
Yeah.
Enjoy what you're doing. Have fun. That's right. That's right.
Totally agree. That's good.
Yes,
That's good.
yeah.
So here at Keep Shining, we have a little tradition at the end. We ask 3 questions. So the first question is to you: who has been? Because we're all about lighthouses. So the purpose of the Lighthouse Collective is to help create lighthouses so that they can shine a light for other people. And so we would love to know today, who has been a major light in your life, and how did they shape how you lead and innovate?
Is it okay if I say it's a combination of some
Absolutely.
people?
We've had a few combos. Yes.
Yeah. So I think my father,
Uh-huh.
I still feel that he's inside of me. I grew up
Uh-huh.
in the projects of New York,
Mm-hmm.
very difficult place. And my parents worked really hard. My father always struggled, but we always made ends meet. And finally, when I was a teenager, they bought their first home in Staten Island. And I always worked with my father um, in construction, and he instilled in me that no one's going to give you anything for free. You gotta work hard. There's no
Mm-hmm.
shortcut to working hard. And he instilled in me this desire to be having some level of success for my family.
Mm-hmm.
And so I say my dad first of all, and then I was really lucky on the people I worked for in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I had such great managers. At Unilever, there was a guy named John McCook. I remember them. I mean, he was so giving to me and so trusting and allowed me to think and learn. And there were a number of others. When I went to Revlon from L'Oreal, there was a CEO there named Alan Ennis, a young guy, but he was inspirational. And I took a lot from Alan. I took a lot at Unilever from John McCook and Bob Phillips. I took a lot from just about everywhere. I was just so lucky,
Mm-hmm.
to have people that were giving and generous of themselves.
That's great. That's great. So the other tradition we have is that the previous guest on the podcast asks a question, and I get to give it to the next guest.
Okay.
How's that? That's kind of
All
thing, eh?
right. Yeah, it is.
So their question was, if you could change anything today that you feel would have the biggest impact on the future, what would it be?
Are you saying professionally or personally?
If you're open to it, we got some time. Why don't you do one of each? Yeah, why don't you do one science and one personal,
Professionally, I think when I left Revlon, I went into my own business for a while. Probably if I think back, I shouldn't have. I would have liked to stay really in the corporate world longer in my career.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one thing I regretted that. Um, Personally, um, I, it's a funny thing, Stuart. I said to my wife the other day that I finally feel comfortable in my own skin. I'm 67
Oh,
years old.
that's
You, you,
awesome.
I think that's like a life's journey, right? To
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
like, I don't care what others think. I'm happy where I am. Everyone has, listen, families, you don't pick them.
Nope.
You choose your family or friends, but you
Right.
don't, so there's always those push and pull in that area. But
Mm-hmm.
on a personal note, I've come to a realization in my life that I'm comfortable in my skin and I don't want to. I'm lucky. I'm working with old friends right now that I love for many years.
Mm-hmm.
And someone said to me, there might be an opportunity for you, Alan, to go to a very large company to run their R&D again, just a number of months ago. I said, absolutely not. I don't like the politics anymore. I don't want to do that. I want to enjoy my life right now and invent things and try to make people happy with what we give to them and grow a business like that. And so I'm just comfortable, It's a
Yeah.
weird thing to say, isn't it?
No, it isn't, because I'm getting up there too, and I would say I feel very similar. I feel like the version of me today is very comfortable. It's interesting because I think sometimes what drives us is discontent, and but like everything in life, it has a yin and yang to it, right? So
Mhm.
I think we should be discontent sometimes because
Sure.
it makes us better. But discontent can also create real challenges in our lives. Certainly has in mine.
Yeah.
And so that sense of being comfortable in your own skin, being content with what you have, and who you have surrounded yourself with is super important. I think, it's a real
Yeah.
life lesson. And most of the people who will be watching this podcast are probably 30 years younger than you and me. And I would say to them, 20 and 30 years younger, I would say to them, seek contentment. There are people who say seek discontent.
Right.
At a point in my life that made sense. But you know what? Being content, being comfortable in your own skin, being confident, still challenging yourself. But being content is super important. It gives us confidence. And with confidence, we're better people.
100%. And I would say to someone who is 30 years younger than me, 50 years, I'm 67. If you're not happy, think of it as, are you in the right company or are you in the wrong profession?
Right.
Change them.
Mhm.
Because it sounds so trite. Everyone says it. It's like life goes so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Why be unhappy?
Exactly.
Don't torture yourself. Be happy. Believe in yourself, and find that contentment. There's a lot of people that'll give you discontentment. You don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. You don't have to seek it out. That's for sure.
Exactly.
It's funny because we talked earlier about having fun, and I recall, the 3 or 4 years we got to work together. Man, did we laugh!
We did.
You know what? And if you're not laughing, if you're not happy, if you're not having a great time, then move on. There are a lot of places to be. So then the last tradition, Alan, is that you get to lay out a question for my next guest, even though you don't know who my next guest is.
Okay. I guess the question I would have for that person is, if you had to inspire someone, what would you inspire them to do?
If you had to inspire someone, what would you inspire them to do? Okay. That's a great question. I can't wait. I actually know who the next guest is, so I can't wait to hear the answer. That's going to be really cool. Well, thank you, Alan, for spending the hour with me, and hopefully everybody has enjoyed two old guys waxing philosophical for an hour. Hopefully you gained something from it. I certainly did, and I continue to count you as a friend and a colleague. And
same here.
And I hope we get to work together in the near future. So thanks for everything. Thanks for everything you do, will do, and have done. I appreciate you.
Appreciate you too, Stuart. Have a great day.
Take care.